is up, guys? It's your boy Sutton Def back here with another video, another episode of 5-Minute MMA. So I know this one is a little bit different from the last one, guys. I know I'm doing this one actually live. I wanted to try something new today. I wanted to see if I can get some viewers in here, kind of chop it up with you guys about MMA and what I'm talking about today. So I see a couple of you guys already in the chat room now. Say what's up. Say what's up. And if this is your first time watching 5-Minute MMA, welcome. And if this is your first time watching the Purple Rain podcast, also welcome. Glad to have you guys here. We have a couple things to talk about, and let me see what we have in here. Our guy Rush is in the building. Our guy Team Ramey is in the building. Devon Johnson is in the building. Moolah Boy Quan is also in the building. Devon Johnson says #Rain Gang. What's up? And my guy J Prime 235_ is in the building as well. So guys, tonight, well not tonight, but today, or whenever you may be listening or watching this, we're talking about Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. That's going to be the primary focus of today's episode of 5-Minute MMA, and it's probably going to end up being 5 to 10 minute MMA because I want to interact with you guys as well. But listen, guys, it's official. It's official. Jake Paul is fighting Tyron Woodley next. I'm not exactly sure the date, but this fight is as intriguing as they come, and I will tell you why. Jake Paul, he hasn't really fought too many, guys that you would deem stiff competition in the boxing world at all, really. So his two most notable wins was against Nate Robinson, an ex-NBA player, an undersized ex-NBA player at that, who has no boxing or fighting experience. And then he fought Ben Askren, who is a, former champion in a couple different promotions, mixed martial arts promotions, but he's not known for throwing punches at all. In fact, when he does throw punches, it looks almost like he's not supposed to be doing it. Like he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to throw a punch. There's no power. There's no sharpness behind anything that he throws with his hands. And he got into a punching competition with Jake Paul. Jake Paul won. So Jake Paul, he really doesn't have too much on his resume right now to kind of really say okay, this is the guy. He's got these skills. He can do this, that, and the third. He's getting better. I'm not saying that Jake Paul is a bad boxer by any stretch of the imagination. I know he's been working really hard. But listen, he's new to this whole thing. He's new to this whole thing. And everybody kind of wants a piece of the pie because he's making bank. He's making bank, man. And Devon Johnson brings it up in the comments. He says, as long as Triller isn't hosting. Yeah, Jake Paul made a lot of money with Triller. And, they kind of put him on this pedestal to where it's like, okay, you kind of got to respect Jake Paul now as an actual fighter. You do. As much as you hate to say it, as much as me, a diehard MMA, mixed martial arts, UFC, Bellator, One, Pride fan, real fighting and boxing too. I'm a kind of a fan of boxing. Not a huge fan, but I'm kind of a fan of boxing. This is something new. This is something new. Like getting a guy like Jake Paul in there, and he's kind of like this internet, social media head type guy. He's gonna talk a lot of trash, build up a fight. It's something new. It's fun. It's why I'm sitting here talking about it right now. But Triller is not hosting this fight. I think it's actually Showtime Boxing. So we're getting the real deal Holyfield with this matchup here. So let's break it down. Let's talk about first a little bit about who Tyron Woodley is. So a lot of you guys might not know who Tyron Woodley is. Tyron Woodley is now I don't think he's with the UFC anymore. His contract is up with the UFC. His last fight was his final fight on his UFC contract. But he's a former welterweight champion. He fought at 170 pounds. He won the belt back in, I believe it was 2016. So about 5 years ago, he won the championship. He took it from Robbie Lawler, and he won that fight by knockout in emphatic fashion. Round 1, knockout. Just hits him with a clean overhand right, puts him right to sleep, and then finishes him up with some ground and pound. So that's what he did to win the championship in the UFC with his hands. He won a title in the UFC with his hands. With his hands. So, just that alone should let you know that, okay, this is going to be a real stiff challenge for one Jake Paul. Jake Paul, like I said, who was he fought? Let's talk about it again. Ben Askren, a guy who doesn't know how to throw a punch. And then Nate Robinson, a guy who just also doesn't know how to throw a punch. He doesn't have any prior fighting experience. So now he's going up against a guy who's a former UFC champion, not just a former UFC fighter like Ben Askren was. He only fought 3 times in the UFC, but a former champion. Now you may be asking, okay, what is Jake Paul doing fighting a former UFC champion? Like this should be a no-brainer. Of course, Tyron Woodley is going to win. Here's the intrigue. Tyron Woodley, he's not actually known as a striker, for one. He's more so known as a wrestler, but he has power. And here's where the intrigue is. He's got a brilliant right hand, overhand right, which can put anybody to sleep. It's how he won the belt. I just said that. So he could definitely land a big shot on Jake Paul and put him to sleep. He could. He could. You saw in the Ben Askren fight, Ben Askren landed maybe one, maybe two punches in the 2 or 3 minutes that fight lasted. Tyron Woodley, if he lands those same type of punches on Jake Paul, and they're even somewhat clean, he's going to, if not knock out Jake Paul early, he's going to get the respect of Jake Paul. And then it's going to become a very interesting actual boxing match. It's not going to be like a circus anymore. You're going to see Jake Paul actually have to sit down and say, okay, this guy has real danger and power in his hands. I'm going to have to kind of, work my way, or find my way around this power and find a way to beat this guy. Because I don't think Jake Paul has legitimate knockout power. I can't give him that yet. I'm sorry. The Ben Askren thing, you guys know how I feel about that. It seemed a little bit fishy. It kind of looked like he took a fall. I've seen Ben Askren take a lot harder shots than the one he took from Jake Paul. So it's kind of weird to me. And Nate Robinson, same thing. I'm not going to say he has zero punching power at all. I'm not saying that Jake Paul has no punching power. But it's just, I don't really see him landing one on Tyron Woodley and putting him out the same way that he did with Ben Askren and Nate Robinson. I just don't. Because Woodley, he's been through the ringer, man. He's been through the ringer. And I see somebody in the chat saying how Woodley, let's see, Emmanuel Asapa actually says, and shout out to my guy Emmanuel Asapa, always supporting the channel, supporting the show. Appreciate you, man. He says Woodley has lost, his last 4 losses look bad. Yes. He has lost his last 4 fights. And I actually want to show you guys his stats of his last 4 fights. Well, not his stats, but just kind of like just kind of breaking down what happened in those last 4 fights. Because I actually watched all of them. So here, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So you guys can see up here his last 4 bouts. First, well, the most recent one was against Vicente Luque. He got submitted in round 1 due to a Darce choke. And then the 3 fights before that, he just went all 5 rounds with these guys and just pretty much got dominated. So against Colby Covington, just dominated on the feet. Just didn't really seem like he was all the way there. Colby Covington just kind of grinded him out, took him down when he wanted to, landed shots on him. And it just really didn't go well. Against Gilbert Burns, the exact same thing. Gilbert Burns grinded him out. Tyron Woodley looked like he did not want to be there, did not want to be fighting Gilbert Burns that night. And the same thing happened when Tyron Woodley lost his championship to Kamaru Usman 2 years ago. Listen, he got grinded out again. But what's the common theme in all of these losses? All of these losses, he lost because he got grinded out, he got dominated, he got pushed up against the cage, he got taken down. None of these things can happen against Jake Paul. Remember, guys, this is a punching contest. A boxing match is just, in the simplest form, a punching contest. How many times can I punch you until you're disabled, or how many times can you punch me until I'm disabled, I can't go anymore? Or we'll just go to decision. So none of these 4 losses, these 4 most recent losses, really matter too much to me, at least when it comes to me picking my winner for this fight. Needless to say, I've got Tyron Woodley. I've got Tyron Woodley winning this fight. I know Tyron Woodley, he's lost his last 16 rounds. His last 16 rounds in the UFC. So you guys can see here, these 3 fights against Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, they went all 5 rounds. That's 15 rounds right there. And then he lost to Vicente Luque in round 1. So that's 16 rounds. The last 16 rounds he fought in the octagon, he lost. But like I said, guys, the common denominator there is that he got grinded out in those fights. He got taken down, held down, pushed up against the fence, grappled, things like that. And he couldn't really kind of use his striking to his advantage. See, the whole thing about Tyron Woodley in the UFC, he was so good because he could threaten the takedown. And when he fought against guys who weren't really that good on the ground, he could threaten his takedown and then just hit you with like an overhand right, But I don't know, man. I still got to go with Woodley. I still have to go with Woodley for this fight against Jake Paul. I just feel like since he has gone 5 rounds against Kamaru Usman, 5 rounds against Gilbert Burns, 5 rounds against Colby Covington, these are killers. For those of you guys who don't know about the UFC, these are absolute killers in the division, in the welterweight division. And he went all 5 rounds with them. Now you got to think, stamina, fatigue has a lot to do with these sports, right? So mixed martial arts, UFC, everything having to do with that. And of course, UFC is not a sport itself. I hate saying it that way, but MMA. And then also Jake Paul. What I was going to say about Jake Paul? Jake Paul, it just doesn't see, everything seems so contrived, right? Everything seems so contrived. And Devon Johnson here says that was definitely a dive, like the one against Ben Askren. It definitely seemed like that. So I don't know, man. I just feel like he hasn't really shown me enough yet to warrant me saying that he's going to beat Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, like I said, man, he's been through the ringer. He's fought 5-round fights, so that means he has the gas tank. You know, he's not going to gas out against this guy. But with that being said, man, I think Tyron Woodley, he edges him out. He edges him out, and I think he knocks him out. I think Tyron Woodley lands a big shot on Jake Paul. Jake Paul's going to be hurt. He's going to be rocked for the first time in his life in front of a crowd of thousands of people. And then I think Woodley goes ahead and finishes him. That's my official prediction from your boy Sutton Def. I think that Tyron Woodley is going to finish Jake Paul. I don't know if it's going to be via overhand right. I just think it's going to be more so Jake Paul's going to realize early on in that fight that he's not going to be able to get Tyron Woodley out of there so easily or as easily as he did with Nate Robinson and Ben Askren. And as the fight wears on, Jake Paul's going to get a little bit tired. He's going to notice that he's getting a little bit tired. His shot's going to become a little bit more labored. And Tyron Woodley's going to be the fresher fighter. Why? Because Tyron Woodley, he's gone 5-round fights using not only his hands, but his feet and his and everything, his head, everything. Like literally, like MMA, mixed martial arts, UFC, Bellator, that stuff takes your entire body. Boxing is just your upper body. So I feel like Tyron Woodley can last a little bit longer than Jake Paul. Now, but that's just me, though. That's just me. I want to see what you guys are saying here in the chat. What do you guys think about this whole Tyron Woodley matchup? Do you guys think that Tyron Woodley is going to get the W? You guys think that Jake Paul is going to step up and get that W? Moolah Boy Quan says, yeah, it's time to step it up, Jake Paul. I think this is a very good test. And big shout out, big kudos to Jake Paul for taking this fight. Honestly, because he did not have to take this fight against a guy like Tyron Woodley, who is definitely his stiffest competition yet. No, Tyron Woodley's not a boxer, but Tyron Woodley is an all-around fighter. He can whoop some ass, period. Tyron Woodley can whoop some ass. And with that being said, you gotta tip your hat to Jake Paul for taking this fight, man, because Tyron Woodley's a dangerous fighter. He's a dangerous fighter. And if you want to know exactly how dangerous he is, go back and watch his knockout of Robbie Lawler. I know it was 5 years ago, but And Woodley is a little bit over the hill now, but just seeing that he has that punching power in him, unlike a Ben Askren, unlike a Nate Robinson. That was never proved to us by those guys. So, big shout out to Jake Paul because he's taking this fight, but I do have Tyron Woodley winning. John James says, if Woodley has power in his hands, then we're going to see if Jake has an iron chin or a good chin. Yes, this is going to be very, very interesting, John. I agree with you there. It's going to be interesting to see the first time that Jake Paul gets touched and feels the power of Tyron Woodley. Because Tyron Woodley, he's got power. He's got explosiveness. He's got that, what they call a twitch. That twitch, He's got that twitch. So, needless to say, like I said, it'll be very, very interesting to see how Jake Paul reacts the first time that he gets hit. But yeah, let's see what else you guys are saying here. JTV says, is Jake Paul going to ever fight an actual boxer or just a whole bunch of UFC fighters? Here's my thing about Jake Paul and people wanting him to fight boxers. I want him to fight a boxer just as much as the next guy. But you got to realize what Jake Paul is doing this for. He's doing this for, we're in a new age, a new era of social media, internet, clicks, likes, retweets, posts, things like that. So he's not really doing it to, I don't think he's doing it to become the best of all time. I don't think Jake Paul is fighting to become the next Floyd Mayweather, the next Sugar Shane Mosley, the next Holyfield. No, he's not trying to do that. He's trying to make a lot of money. He's trying to get a lot of clout. And what better way to do that than, fighting guys who aren't necessarily professionals, but they have a name behind them, and there's some intrigue behind the matchup. There's questions behind this matchup between Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. It's like, okay, can Jake Paul take Tyron Woodley's power? Can Tyron Woodley knock out Jake Paul? That's the question. If Jake Paul was to go and fight, let's say, I don't know, like Gervonta Davis or somebody like that, it would be no questions. There wouldn't be any fun. It wouldn't... we'd be like, okay, Gervonta Davis is clearly going to win. Or if he fights any professional boxer, for that matter. Even guys that, I don't know, you guys watching right here don't know, like, that box or are professionals, would destroy Jake Paul. But that's not what he's in it for. He's in it to fight the names. He's in it to make the money. He's in it to do things like that. Let's see. Devon Johnson says, Jake will probably hold and hang in there. Hopefully Tyron isn't there, just there for the bag. That was my initial thought. As soon as I saw this fight announced, I was like, oh no. oh my gosh, Woodley, he's out of the UFC now. He probably wants some more money. I could definitely see Jake Paul reaching out to his camp and being like, hey, let's do this fight. If you take a dive, we'll pay you a big bag of money, more than you ever made in the UFC. And Tyron Woodley was probably like, yeah, cool, let's do it. That was my first thought. But I'm not gonna stick with that train of thinking, because that's boring and it wouldn't allow me to really talk about this fight in depth. So I'm gonna say that this is actually gonna be a legit fight. I hope so, at least. But I think Tyron Woodley's gonna win. Emmanuel Sapa says, I want to see Jake Paul fight somebody his age. I feel that. I feel that too. E-Boy says, got your hat. Yeah, that was a funny moment. I see Moolah Boy Kwan says that was funny, though Floyd was heated as well. Yeah, that got your hat. I mean, like I said, man, Jake, what is he in this for? Jake Paul is not in this to be the very best that no one ever was. Shout out to all you guys who caught that reference, but he's not. He's in it for the clicks. He's in it for the likes. He's in it to be, famous. And it's working. It's working. And big shout out to him, because there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, and it's bringing more eyes to the sport of boxing. Of course, it's not bringing necessarily all the right attention, but it is bringing attention to a dying sport. Boxing is a dying sport. The bigger the UFC gets, the more boxing seems to shrink, because the younger generation, they want to watch UFC. They want to watch the matchups that are supposed to happen with the biggest and baddest guys on the planet, But boxing is kind of like, there's all different promoters and everybody's underneath. There's like 169 different, world championship belts and stuff like that. You can't even keep up with it. So the younger generation, they're not really watching boxing. But Jake Paul, he makes boxing more interesting. He makes boxing more intriguing. So people want to watch him, So that's where, you kind of got to respect Jake Paul, because he is bringing attention to the sport. But in terms of the whole gotcha hat thing, that thing was hilarious. And I think Logan Paul fights Floyd this week, if I'm not mistaken. If you guys know, put it in the chat. Let me know. But I think they fight this week. If not this week, the next week. Depending on what happens with that fight, if Floyd just goes out there and just schools him, which I fully expect for him to do, then I think that Jake Paul versus Floyd Mayweather fight is definitely next, because they've already built it up. All you need is that to cut a good promo is that one clip of him taking Floyd's hat, and then Floyd's bodyguard grabbing him, or Floyd walking through the tunnels or whatever, just heated, screaming like, I'm gonna kill this guy, I'm gonna kill this guy. That's all you need to promote the fight. That's all you need. Sell 1 million pay-per-views. Easy, But a lot of people illegally streaming, how we do, whatever. But yeah, but I think that fight's coming up, and Jake Paul is doing exactly what he needs to do to stay relevant, and that's what's important. That's what's important, man. It's gonna make him the money. I see you guys say, yeah, it is Sunday. Thank you, J Prime. I appreciate you, man. Kyrie Irving says Jake needs to fight somebody more like a boxer. Hey, man, I agree. But the problem is, though, he's not going to fight a boxer, like a professional boxer with a big name, because everybody knows he would lose. And he's not going to fight a professional boxer with no name, because it's not going to make him any money. You know what I mean? So he's going to continue to make, fight these circus type fights, fight UFC fighters, guys who, aren't necessarily supposed to be in the boxing ring, kind of like Jake Paul. But that's just what he does. John James says, yeah, I also agree. Respect to Jake for taking this fight, but I really want to see him fight an actual boxer. UFC is completely different from boxing. Yes, it is. I mean, listen, it's completely different. The stances that you take in the ring as opposed to in the octagon, when you have to worry about getting leg kicked, getting taken down, getting kicked in the head, all these sort of things, it's totally different. You can ask Conor McGregor. Ask Conor McGregor. Those two things are totally different. He went and he boxed for a little while. He came back to the UFC. And you can tell, his stance had changed, and it just didn't translate well at all. So we'll see how Tyron Woodley comes out in this fight. That's very interesting that you bring this up, John James, because it'll be very interesting to see how Tyron Woodley trains, and then when fight day comes up, or fight night, what stance he takes in the octagon. Is he going to have a taller stance to kind of be able to get his shots off and get his jab off at a better range? Or will he have a wider stance like he takes in the octagon, because that's what he's so used to? And having that wider stance, that could actually make him more prone to being knocked out by Jake Paul. Again, guys, listen, it's that intrigue. Man. That's what we're all kind of speculating on. That's why we want to see this fight. That's why I want to see this fight. So, let's see. we'll go ahead and move on from the whole Jake Paul thing. I wanted to talk about UFC 263, but I have a question from Moolah Boy Kwan here. It says, what do you guys think about the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury rematch? This is a fight that I'm definitely excited for too. I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm definitely going to pay for the pay-per-view because these are two boxers, right? These are two guys that they're professionals. They're the very best at what they do. Don't mind paying for that, you know. But the Jake Paul stuff, it's like, you know, like, come on, you're not going to get over on me on that. Like, no. But yeah, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. The first fight was incredible. It was back and forth. Deontay Wilder, he dropped Tyson Fury, and it was epic. The second fight, Tyson Fury just took over. He beat on Deontay Wilder. He leaned on him, and you know he knocked him down a couple times. So this third fight, because the first one was a draw, second one Tyson Fury won. This third fight right here is going to be very interesting because Deontay Wilder's motivation is going to have to be off the charts. Deontay Wilder has never lost until he lost to Tyson Fury almost 2 years ago. He never lost until he lost to Tyson Fury. And with that being said, he's going to want to get that one back. Deontay Wilder's the type of guy, he will come out swinging. He's going to come out swinging. I think he's going to be more composed than he normally is because that was the big knock on Deontay Wilder for a long time. Yes, he's a boxer, but he's not like a true, pure boxer. He's more of a power puncher. So I think in his training, I think that his coach has probably, you know, kind of fixed him up to be more of like a more traditional boxer, which is good, which is very, very good. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. In my official prediction for that fight, that's tough. It's tough. But I'm going to go with Deontay Wilder. Like I said, I think that Deontay Wilder, his motivation is going to be off the charts for this one. I think Tyson Fury is already kind of looking past this fight with Deontay Wilder since he already beat him. He's looking more forward to the fight with Anthony Joshua. And for that reason, I don't think he'll come into this fight as motivated as Deontay Wilder is. And I think Wilder's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder because he's lost the last fight in such devastating fashion. It was kind of embarrassing, really. So yeah, I got Deontay Wilder in this fight, but it'll be a very, very good fight. I think maybe like an 8th round, 9th round knockout. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm going with. Let's see. Boy says, didn't Jake Paul lose to KSI, or was that Logan? That was Logan. Yeah, that was Logan Paul who lost to KSI. Yeah. So UFC 263. UFC 263 is next weekend, guys, and I'm very, very excited for that. Let's go ahead and talk about that. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. This is supposed to be a 5-minute MMA video, and we are 23 minutes in. So maybe it's like 20-minute MMA now, if I keep doing it live. Let me know if you guys like the live MMA streams, because if not, I can go back to doing it just with my camera, and I'll just post it. And leave your comments down below, too, if you're watching the replay. You're not watching live right now. But let's go ahead and take a look at the UFC 263 card. It's a very good one. It's a very good card. You guys can see here, I'm about to go ahead and share my screen with you guys here. All right, so boom. So you guys can see, I'm just going to go through the card here, the main card. So, of course, you have the middleweight champion of the world, Israel Adesanya, a.k.a. Izzy, going up against Marvin Vettori, who's been on a tear lately. Hasn't lost a fight since the last time they fought, because Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori, they fought before. It went to decision. I actually just rewatched that fight not too long ago. But I think that Israel Adesanya definitely edged him out, but it was close. It was very close. Definitely Adesanya's closest fight that he won by far, at least in my eyes. And then you have Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. That is the flyweight title bout. So they fought before. They fought not too long ago, actually. And I think I'm pretty sure they fought to a draw. And it was a very good fight. These two guys are as game as they come. You know, Davison Figueiredo is just an absolute savage. He will try to take your head off from the time the bell rings in round 1. And Brandon Moreno, he's just tough. He's a tough guy. Just doesn't go like anything, man. He just doesn't go for anything. You know, it's going to be a great fight. This is going to be a great fight. I'm very excited for the co-main on that one. Then you go down one. Leon Edwards. This one is fireworks. Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. This should be good. This should be very, very good. Leon Edwards is interesting because I think he's on like what, any 10 or like 11 fight win streak right now. He's on a crazy win streak, but the UFC has never really found the right timing for him to kind of step up in that welterweight division to kind of, get to the upper echelon and, fight the Colby Covingtons of the world, the Kamaru Usmans of the world, the champion, of course. He just hasn't had that opportunity. And the last time we saw him fight was against Bilal Muhammad a couple months ago. And that fight was a no contest. It was ruled a no contest because of an eye poke, an accidental eye poke that Leon Edwards did to Bilal Muhammad. Then you got Nate Diaz. So everybody knows Nate Diaz. Everybody knows, Nate Diaz. He's the guy who fought Conor McGregor twice. That's how a lot of people know him or found out about him. But Nate Diaz, he's one of those guys who, for me, he's over the hill. He's a little bit over the hill. He's not going to contend for a title anymore. His last fight was against Jorge Masvidal. And that was 2 years ago, where he was getting beat up in that fight to the point where he was bleeding so bad it had to get stopped. Now, Nate Diaz is not trash by any stretch of the imagination. He was actually coming back in that fight against Jorge Masvidal before they stopped it, before the doctor stopped it. But I just think Leon Edwards he's younger. He's a younger fighter. He is the sharper fighter. He's the sharper striker. And he just has more tools in the box, man. So I've got Leon Edwards winning that fight for sure. I guess that's, my prediction for that. But showing you guys the rest of the main card here. You guys can see there's also Damian Maia versus Bilal Muhammad, the guy who just fought Leon Edwards not too long ago. In this fight, this is gonna be a good fight. Bilal Muhammad, I want to say he gets the W here, but I've got Damian Maia. I've got Maia getting the W here. I think he takes him down, submits him. We all know that Damian Maia he's pretty much as good as they come in the wrestling department, in the submission department. So I got Damian Maia in this fight. And then you got Paul Craig versus Jamahal Hill. Now, I know you guys probably don't know who these guys are, but these are two really, really good light heavyweights on the rise. I really like Jamal Hill. He is an excellent striker. He knows how to keep distance. He knows how to use his range really, really well. And Paul Craig is just a savage, man. So this fight is going to be really good. Can't even really make a prediction for it, but I'm going to have to go with my guy, Jamal Hill. I think he clips him early, and then he gets the finish. So just kind of wrapping it up here, I got Jamal Hill against Paul Craig. I got Damian Maia over Bilal Muhammad. I got Leon Edwards over Nate Diaz. This time I've got Davison Figueiredo actually beating Brandon Moreno. And for the main event, Israel Adesanya defending his title against Marvin Vettori. I've got Israel Adesanya, man. I've got Adesanya. I think he clips him. Early. I think like late round 1, early round 2, and then just kind of gets him out of there. Now, Marvin Vettori is a very, very tough dude, but I just don't think that at this point in Adesanya's career, nobody at that middleweight division can strike with him. And Vettori is not the sharpest striker at all. We saw that against Kevin Holland. Every time they were on the feet, Kevin Holland was hurting him, and Marvin Vettori had to try to get to his hips and take him down. Israel Adesanya is the type of guy, he's not going to let you take him down. He's not going to let that happen. He's not going to let you get to his hips and just do whatever. So I've got Israel Adesanya stuffing a couple takedowns, hurting him on the feet, and then finishing the fight. But that's just me, though. That's just me. So I think that is going to go ahead and wrap up the, at this point, half an hour MMA. So I think I'm officially, if you guys are liking the live stream, I see Moolah Boy Kwan says, I'm loving the MMA live. Appreciate that, man. I might keep doing it this way. But if you guys prefer me to do it the other way with the higher quality camera and I just do it pre-recorded and everything like that, I can do that as well. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you guys like the video as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I plan on doing this 5-minute MMA. I know I've been kind of slacking on it lately, guys. I've been busy with a couple other things. But doing it live like this actually allows me to kind of, bang it out a lot quicker and a lot easier. So I may keep doing it like this just for that sake, just so I can be more consistent with it. But yeah, with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. That's been it for me, your boy Sutton Def. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sutton Def. If you want to chop it up about MMA, you want to chop it up about Ravens football. That's what we primarily talk about here on the Purple Rain podcast. Me and my guy Alex, my co-host Alex. But yeah, make sure you guys go ahead and hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. I would love to, communicate and connect with you guys. But that is going to be it for this episode of Half an Hour MMA. I'm your boy Sutton Def signing off. I'm going to catch you guys in the next one.